My name is Mark Westervelt. I'm here at the 61st Annual International Dyslexia Association Conference in Phoenix, Arizona, to interview Diana Hanbury King. Diana holds a bachelor's with honors from University of London and a master's degree from George Washington University. She formerly taught at the Rosalie School in Rhodesia, at the Sidwell Friends School in Washington, D.C., and the Potomac School in Virginia. She is the founder of Camp Dunnebeck beginning in 1955 and Kildonan School in 1969. Diana is the author of numerous writing skills, cursive, and typing workbooks, as well as a publisher of commentaries on the English language. She has been a nationwide lecturer and speaker on many topics surrounding dyslexia. Diana is an avid lover of the wilderness and the Great Southwest. Diana, how did you first get interested in the field of dyslexia?
Elaine Derber, and I was very lucky because my first real teaching job was Sidwell Friends. And at that time, Anna Gillingham was stopping by to keep an eye on the program. And I had students who needed extra help, and that would be provided at what these days we would probably call a resource room, where they started sometimes full-time, and then they were gradually integrated back into the classroom.
How did Anna Gillingham influence this program?
Another aspect of Sidwell Friends, which no longer exists, was initiated by Anna Gillingham. It was called the Problem Prevention Program, and we used to call it the PPP. Anna herself tested kindergartners, and with the help of follow-up testing done throughout the year by the kindergarten teacher, she identified those students she thought were, quote, at risk. Now, they were put into a special program beginning with first grade, where they were taught by a teacher who had been trained in Orton Gillingham techniques. They were kept in that program through first through fourth grades, and at the end of fourth grade they were tested. Now, they had been taught the language in a step-by-step sequential manner, cursive writing only from the very beginning, completely phonetic approach. And at the end of fourth grade, they finally tested them. And they found these little children were on a par with those who had been in a regular education program, except they were stronger in spelling. Not surprisingly, they'd been taught all the little tricks and all the rules, so spelling was a strength for them. And of course, the cursive writing also had help. But the most important aspect of that is they never had to experience a failure or to feel they were stupid, ever.
Diana, summer programs have always been a part of your educational philosophy. When did these summer programs first begin?
Camp Mansfield, right in the shadow of Mansfield Mountain. And that integrated a summer camp experience. They had horses, they went climbing, they went overnight camping with daily one-on-one tutoring and some kind of a study period built in there. And of course, that inspired me, and it was my dream to do something similar. And that led to my founding Camp Dunnebeck. We started originally in '55, the first year in Bermuda, in partnership with the Kitsons. And then my mother, she drove off to the wilds of Pennsylvania and found an ideal location up in the mountains, which was actually affordable. About 5 acres with a lodge, a central lodge, 8 little cabins, and a barn, which we used for art activities. And subsequently, over the years, we built on that. So that's how it got started way back when, with your grandmother. We still get letters saying that one summer, sometimes it was just one summer or a couple of summers, that one summer changed my life.
What types of resources were available to you at the time?
When we started, all we had was a pack of cards, our Gillingham manual, a series of workbooks, Eye and Ear Fun, Book 1, and Eye and Ear Fun, Book 2. And that was it. Everything else we really had to create. Bob Hall was not around at that point. EPS, which he founded, was not there. And we used a lot of paper and thousands and thousands of 3x5 cards. And we were our own place. We were really in the wilderness. There was no contact with the outside world. Would you believe I got away with this? I wouldn't even allow radios because I didn't want them to be distracted by hearing news events. We did, as one major concession, we rented a small black and white TV for the moon landing. And that was it. And we were in a really rural area. The local farmers were complaining, no wonder we have a drought. It's them there folks on the moon.
In the beginning, what professionals helped you identify students?
Roger Saunders was a great proponent of the program. We first started, we opened actually with 7 students. By the second year, we were up to about 17, and then into the 20s, and we did not go really beyond 40.
What are some of the characteristics that you recognize in your students?
High energy. Don't give me the ADD or ADHD stuff. It's high energy. They have a high level of energy. At school, it's a pain in the neck. When they're adults, they become wonderful, creative individuals doing many things at once. Entrepreneurs, all that. Level of original thinking was always interesting. The things they would say, the things they would come up with. From the beginning, we had a very strong art program and later ceramics, and something that they always enjoyed. Sports and activities. People don't always realize they have an enhanced sense of balance. And the thing that I don't think gets enough notice, which is the innate charm, which I am convinced, and we're talking today about peripheral vision and things like that, I'm quite convinced the innate charm of the dyslexic, which leads to their being elected to important positions, to go moving ahead in the world, because they get chosen, they get elected, and on up. It stems from keen observation. I always had a good example of it. I used to suffer from devastating migraine headaches, the kind that, if it's not treated, would incapacitate me for 2 or 3 days. But these kids would notice it beforehand. The only thing I was aware of was a heightened auditory sense. People would be setting the table, and the noise of clanging dishes would go right through me. And kids would notice, Diana, are you getting a headache? How they saw it, I don't know. And because of this extravisual sense, they read body language very, very early. And they know what is going to please people or not please people. And you know, people say, I've had parents, teachers even, say to me, ain't he such a little con artist? Well, what do you mean? Is he's charming, and don't disparage that one. Yeah. I'm convinced it comes from heightened powers of observation. And of course, you've got the acting profession, which is full of them. And again, that is acting and imitating. And we know these kids are great little mimics. Mm-hmm. They will do devastating mimics, any of us. when you're not looking, of course, so you don't always get to see it.
With new classroom technologies, how is the OG approach changing?
I think the basics of the approach, teaching the language to a young child the way Anna Gillingham had it set up. You don't necessarily do the whole alphabet, you do a few letters at a time. You integrate the spelling, the letter formation, the handwriting, the kinesthetic is crucial. All those elements continue, and there really is nothing technological that can substitute for that. Now, I am a proponent of doing a lot of things. I have a computer in my classroom. My students all learn to keyboard using that silly little alphabetic A, pinky A, reach for B, middle finger C, D, E, side by side F and G, and I teach all my children to keyboard very quickly. And that, as Roger Saunders used to say, is a whole new opportunity to learn spelling. They should be taught correct keyboarding by second grade. Then the keyboard becomes useful. Having a computer in my classroom, being able to Google something. You never heard of the Acropolis? You know what a tulip looks like? Oh, Grandma Moses. You never heard of her? Well, let me show you. Google, punch images. Oh, and they remembered it because I've shown it to them once. The new level of voice to print. Dragon, naturally speaking, the new Intel program, everything that will bypass the reading and spelling and have a direct channel into their brains and their ideas. I am inclined to say wait till 8th, 9th grade. I don't really want little kids doing that because I want them to go as far as they can with reading and writing and spelling. And there are places and times where you do have to read and write. And I want that explored as far as possible. And then by the time they're in high school and getting all ready to go off to college, the more of that you have, I think, the better.
Diana, has the importance of multisensory teaching changed?
Well, particularly the kinesthetic. And once you establish a motor pattern, it's very difficult to correct. Changing a motor pattern is very difficult. And you put it in the wrong way. And as we're fond to say, practice doesn't make perfect, but it sure makes permanent. Not recognizing the importance of the kinesthetic. Teachers are not trained to teach handwriting. Most of them think you don't need to bother. Well, guess what? Your grandmother was onto that. She had books for early development of my motor skills and the pencil grip and the paper position. Nobody pays any attention to that anymore. I train teachers. They've never heard of such a thing. And if I don't watch them, the paper is still straight down. I go to watch a teaching session. Where is the paper? Straight up and down, and the left-handed hook beginning to develop just as we know it does.
So, how might you define dyslexia?
What you call a student who can read okay, but can't write or spell. And I said to her, dyslexic. Well, how can they be dyslexic if they can read? Well, guess what? I mean, Sam Orton recognized the language as a continuum. His book was called Reading, Writing, and Speech Problems in Children. And at the first level, the most severely dyslexic have trouble right at the speech level. Some of them get through that. It's when they hit first grade they have difficulty. Some of them are fine until suddenly fourth grade, a lot of writing is demanded, and then the writing difficulty hits it. So I think all this language is a continuum, and it's the same part of the brain. So we call them dyslexic. High school students are the ones who can read but have the difficulty with the writing and spelling. Because what happens, they are bright, we have their IQs, they can read, so they can't be dyslexic. So what is with this sloppy misspelled paper they're trying to pass off as being their best effort? We make them recopy it. Of course we count off for spelling. And the dyslexia goes unrecognized. The kid who has all the ideas gets no credit because they're focused on the spelling and the handwriting, and they get angry.
Could you talk a little bit about your project with the prison population?
Roger Saunders got a letter from an inmate asking for help. And I said I would go find him, and eventually I got into that prison and spent about a year and a half teaching inmates. It was a maximum security prison. I went through, but it was worse than the airline. I went through about 5 or 6 locked gates to get in. They didn't have the airline scanning techniques, but they sure had everything else to check you out and make sure you were legitimate. And you couldn't even bring a flower into the prison. Some of them drop out of school. I mean, how do they make money? They're charming. Of course, they can sell drugs and be successful in various other ways, and ending up incarcerated.
What surprises you about the current awareness of dyslexia in schools today?
I am aghast at the lack of training teachers get. The extent to which whole language is the modus operandi in the public schools. The way in which dyslexia is not diagnosed. We know it's 20% of the population. New York State does not recognize it. 4 states apparently, 4 public school systems, of which Texas is one, recognizes dyslexia in the public schools. We continue to see the tragedy of bright children coming home from school, 2nd and 3rd grade, in tears. I'm the dumbest kid in all of 2nd grade. And getting stomach aches before they go to school. And all of this totally unnecessary, totally preventable. It drives me crazy. Sometimes I still tell the parent, Mom, you want to get the kid while he's fresh? You're going to tell the school. He's going to be coming in an hour late because I'm going to be working with him, teaching him to read. Well, who are you? How do you qualify? But it works. And then after a while, the school says, the kid seems to be, he's matured, he's beginning to work. Yeah. And next thing you know, the kids are doing fine and they're all caught up. We have one outstanding young man, and I do remember him. The superintendent told his father, your son is a bright dyslexic. There's room in the world for bright dyslexics. He's not going to learn to read, so don't worry about it. Fortunately, Dad did not buy it. He is now finished